If this is your first or second time here, hope you enjoy the video. If this is your third time here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on when we post. I still don't get why I say we. So today I'm going to talk about something that is integral to the Fallout universe, but is almost completely forgotten about at this point. The Pan-Immunity Viron Project. Bunch of fancy words there, but I'll break it down here. The Pan-Immunity Viron Project was funded by the United States military starting in like 2073, during the height of the Resource Wars. Now, the Resource Wars is what I usually get the Great War confused for. It's the war that made us annex Canada and made the Chinese invade Alaska. It was for petroleum reserves and, I guess, nuclear deposits, along with a bunch of other resources, right? Hence, the Resource War. I always get that confused with the Great War because the Great War was literally just the bombs falling, which was the climax of the Resource War, if you want to get technical about it. Now, Wasteland, they made power armor, a bunch of energy weapons and stuff, but Wasteland, a major military research contractor, that's the word, English is hard sometimes, was tasked with developing a way to protect soldiers from biological weapons, since China at this point in time was developing quite a few biological weapons. The project was mostly focused on increasing human resistance to all known diseases, including the new plague. That was a very deadly pre-war virus spreading throughout the United States. Little is known about it. You only hear about it a few times here and there. The scientists that were working on this project aimed to alter human DNA so that it could fight off infections before they became lethal, i.e. making someone immune to damn near anything, right? With the capability of pretty much fixing any other problem that might crop up, right? Now, initial testing looked promising for the Pan-Immunity Viron project here, because the subjects they tested on, which were United States military veterans, developed high resistances to diseases. They also experienced faster cell regeneration, healing of wounds at a much higher rate. Their lifespans also seemed to increase due to increased cell repair mechanisms. However, because there's always a however when it comes to Fallout, the unintended side effects of these, of the Pan-Immunity Viron project: uncontrollable cell growth, leading to muscle hypertrophy, I think that's how that word is pronounced, and mental instability. Now, that may sound familiar for anyone that has played Fallout for any amount of time, really, as a few big green super enemies that you may fight. But let's continue here. As the experimentation continued, well into 2075 at this point, some of the mutations brought on by the PvP, the Pan-Immunity Viron Project, were beyond expectations. Some of the main observations was massive cell growth, leading to, being substantially stronger than a normal human, increased brain size in some, but with varying effects of cognitive function. Some retained intelligence, others became mentally unstable, to put it mildly. Grayish, leathery skin, which was resistant to radiation and environmental hazards, and extreme immune response, meaning their bodies rejected diseases just completely. But they also struggled with organ transplants and external substances for some reason. Now, if these sound familiar to you, it's because what I just explained is the first generation super mutant, sometimes known as a Nightkin. The first generation super mutants all had the same characteristics, and only later on did their skin change from substantial stealth boy use and things like that. Anyway, back on track. As the United States military does in this timeline, they saw a use to the PvP. But not in the way it was originally intended, right? The way it was originally intended was to make people immune to disease. It did that, but it also did a bunch of other shit too. And they were more interested at that point in time with the bunch of other shit. So the military steps in and reclassifies the entirety of the operation. They saw potential in creating super soldiers with it, so they repurposed the project under military control this time. And by 2076, the project was completely rebranded by its new official name, the Forced Evolution Virus, or Forced Evolutionary Virus, or just FEV, or FEV virus, which we all know and love, right? You can't have a Fallout game without the FEV. Testing was moved to the Mariposa military base so that the military could have full control over what was being done and who knew more about it. Human experimentation ramped up with prisoners, political dissidents, POWs, and even military personnel being used in the experimentation. During an October day in 2077 at the Mariposa military base, one Captain Roger Maxson, the commanding officer of the military base, began questioning Wasteland employees and scientists about the research at the base. After an unique interrogation, one of the scientists confessed to human testing. Not just on prisoners and the like, but U.S. citizens that were branded dissidents, right? Horrified by this, Maxson declared all of the scientists guilty of war crimes and executed all of them. He sent out a broadcast to the United States military on pretty much all frequencies saying, "We know what you did. We've dealt with it. Come and get us if you want." But by that point in time, on the 23rd of October, 2077, the Great War happened. And no one came to, well, deal with Roger Maxson. This gave birth to the Brotherhood of Steel that we all know and love from the Fallout games. Not too long after the bombs fell, they abandoned Mariposa, taking all the power armor and weapons they could, because it was a military base at that point, right? It was far enough out of the way to where the bombs didn't touch it either. They traveled west, eventually forming the Brotherhood of Steel, and the rest is history from that point. Despite what Roger Maxson attempted to do, mind you, Mariposa was pretty much left abandoned, so he didn't try to destroy the research because I guess he didn't understand it and didn't want it bleeding into the environment, which I can fully understand. There were other places that used FEV as well, all of which were linked to Wasteland. We got Mariposa here, we got Vault-87, which had FEV thanks to the United States government taking over the Pan Immunity Viron project. So, of course, any Vault could have it, potentially. That's where most of the super mutants in the capital Wasteland came from. The Institute also had access to FEV. They tried to use it to enhance certain human characteristics, but failed. That's how we get Virgil turning himself into a super mutant and then fucking off. There are most likely other places out there that also have forced evolutionary virus floating around. I know I saw a video floating around on YouTube saying that the snake oil salesman from the Fallout show that fixes that one Brotherhood member who gets his foot mangled by Maxson, or Maximus, that he was in possession of forced evolutionary virus, or the Pan Immunity Viron Project virus, and gave it to the dude that got his foot mangled, right? I don't know if it was FEV. If it was FEV, it probably would have turned him into, like, maybe something along the lines of Herald. It could have just been the PvP that I've been talking about, because it said it did help with cell growth and healing factors, so could have been that. Anyway, tangent aside, super mutants in the Master, the Mariposa strain of the FEV led to the creation of the Master and Herald and centaurs and floaters and first generation super mutants, even though super mutants were made before the war as well, along with a whole host of other things. It's probably best that Roger Maxson didn't break open the vats and let the shit spill into the groundwater. Probably wouldn't be good to drink that shit. Of course, we all know about the Enclave trying to engineer it into a bioweapon of sorts to take out anyone that's not, well, that is mutated. Problem is, that's pretty much everyone in the Wasteland at that point, so kind of genociding everybody for no reason. They could have modified the FEV to literally just make people immune to radiation, right? Or immune to disease, and that probably would have worked better. You know, 6 of one, half dozen the other at that point. But the long-term effects of the forced evolutionary virus, and by extension the Pan-Immunity Viron project, are literally what made Fallout, right? Now, I was just talking about this in my one video, the quiet apocalypse of Fallout. I was talking to one of the commenters there. I fully understand that the radiation from the bombs wouldn't have mutated everything, and that quite a few of the more deadly life forms that call the Wasteland home are due to FEV involvement. I also pondered whether or not, since the Pan-Immunity Viron project was made specifically to counteract Chinese bioweapons, if the Chinese bioweapons were in fact something similar to the FEV, and maybe there was a secondary payload system on the nukes that went off in different parts of the country, of course, because there was a Chinese sub off the coast of Boston, and I'm fairly sure there'd be more off the coast of the West Coast. But maybe it was like a secondary payload, or the type of nuclear material somehow allowed it to supercharge the bioweapons of some kind. Any which way, the way I figure it is they probably had something akin to FEV, if not just straight up FEV at that point, and that they used that in some bombs instead of just nukes. Because, hey, you know, if stuff survived, if you could turn geckos into death claws by using the shit, or you could turn little cockroaches into rad roaches, or bot flies into bloat flies, or mosquitoes into blood bugs, right? I'm pretty sure that would take out the rest of the population that still survived. And it would also have disastrous effects on the population, turning humans into super mutants, or into ghouls, or into centaurs, or... Really, I guess it depends on how you're exposed to the FEV. Is how it changes you. And how long you're exposed to it, right? Because if memory serves me right, Harold got knocked out, breathed in a bunch of the fumes, and got splashed with the FEV and turned into something akin to a ghoul until the plant that landed on his head that merged with his head took him over completely in Fallout 3. Well, the dude that became the Master, I guess, stewed and steeped in the FEV while others were thrown in, and kind of mixed with them. And if memory serves me right, centaurs are kind of like the Master. Well, we only really see one type of centaur in-game. There are said to be multiple types of centaur, some made with just humans and others made with animals and humans tossed in together. I don't know, it seems like there's some type of breakdown that just kind of makes everything stick together to a point. So, that's interesting. Also another tangent. Anyway, tangent aside, just to recap, in case you've forgotten through me, you know, yakking on and on here. The Pan-Immunity Viron Project started as an attempt to save humanity from disease and horrific bioweapons, but only led to horrific genetic mutations. Of course, the United States government wanted to make super soldiers with it. I guess they technically did when they made Frank Horgan however many years later. Without the Pan-Immunity Viron Project, there would be no super mutants, no Enclave, and no Brotherhood of Steel, really, so you can thank it for everything that pretty much set into motion the world of Fallout. And it's also one of the biggest turning points in the Fallout world, because without that even being created, I don't think Fallout would be Fallout, right? We wouldn't have the oversized bugs, we wouldn't have the random wildlife trying to kill you. Pretty much everything would just kind of be an actual wasteland like we'd get here if nukes went off, right? And, yeah. I guess the weird whimsy of Fallout comes from this thing. And like I said, it's one of those things that's pretty much forgotten about. Everyone knows of the FEV. It's a major plot point in Fallout 3. It's a major plot point in Fallout 1. Can't remember if it's a major plot point in Fallout 2. I guess technically you fight Frank Horgan in that one, so... You know, it's a major plot point in, like, every Fallout game. Or hinted at in every Fallout game. So... It's more well-known than the project that it originally came from. And that also pretty much proves true the, what the Brotherhood's always fighting against. Right? Something created to help people. Science created to help people. Turned against the very people it was supposed to help. The reason it was originally created, falling by the wayside so that they could try to create super soldiers. And, yeah. It explains and encapsulates, words is hard sometimes, why the Brotherhood is the way they are, why the Enclave is the way they are, and just the entire world of Fallout. Anyway, thanks for listening to this weird tangent thing that I'm doing here. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll probably figure out what I'm going to do for the next one. I don't know, maybe figure out my next run. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm gonna... peace out.